All right, so Monday night, it's not just Steelers versus Texans in Pittsburgh because we are welcoming Will, our resident Steelers expert, to the pod. So it will also be Turtle and his Texans against Will and his Steelers squaring off. It's a very special debut debate episode for Mr. Will here on the podcast. We're very happy to have him on as a special guest. But I don't want to delay it any further. Let's get right into this because, in my opinion, just as a neutral observer in this game, Steelers-Texans, it feels like a referendum for both sides, right? Like the Texans, since C.J. Stroud's gotten there, since DeMeco Ryans has gotten there, they've been slowly ascending. They've been working their way into becoming a contender. And we're going to see on Monday night if they can, punch their ticket, win a road game in the playoffs in, what will be a very competitive AFC side of the bracket that it feels like anybody can win. And then on the other side for the Steelers, you got an older team, a coach that, we're going to find out if Will is a Tomlin guy or not, if he's been on the fire Tomlin train, but it's been a topic of discussion for Steelers fans. And they've got the ultimate lightning rod at quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers at this point.
42.
42. Okay, he's still a spring chicken compared to Phillip Rivers.
He's gonna
out there.
Perk Rodgers. We're gonna need prime Perk Rodgers. He might need a handful of perks at halftime.
Yeah, he might need a couple extra perks with Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter coming after him. But Will, as the guest on the pod, as the host here of this game in Pittsburgh, what is your read on the Steelers right now, the Steelers this season, and what shot do you give them against the Texans? Start with just what you think about the Steelers this year. Give us your read on it.
And talk about them getting to this point. That game that we just saw, that was fantastic.
For
sure. Well, first off, thank you guys for having me on here. This is awesome. But yeah, I'll get right into it. So going into the season, obviously expectations were high. With Rodgers, with the signing, I was on the fence. I hated him last year, honestly. But once we signed him, kind of jumped on the bandwagon. I was like, you know what? Let's see what we can do. This 42-year-old who has the resume he had. I didn't think it was out of the realm of possibility that he could put it together, especially late in big games, just with the experience he has, his mental ability, all that stuff. So started off hot. Won in versus the Jets team, beat them. I felt that after that game, the Jets were going to be decent. I turned out to be dead wrong on that. That's just a brutal game. And then after that, going straight into Seattle, I felt we controlled most of that game early. And then obviously Caleb Johnson, we blew that away. Week 3, going into New England, beating them. Then after that, we wanted a spree there. We won some games with some bad teams before you hit the slump. The classic Tomlin slump. You lose a few games in bad fashion or whatnot. And then here we are here in the playoffs. Get ahead of myself. In terms of Tomlin, at that Buffalo game, I was there playing them. We were both, I believe, 6-5, or we were 6-5 at least. And it was brutal. I was a Tomlin guy until that game. We were there chanting "Fire Tomlin," all the above. And that was the first time that I really, hopped on the fired Mike Tomlin train. We booed Renegade. I led that charge, and everyone was leaving. The Bills, the Steelers fans were leaving early. But I forced myself to sit in that chair and watch because I knew that, sometime down the line, I want to be able to say I sat there through it all. But since that game, man, we exploded. We beat the Baltimore team a few weeks ago. And I feel like we've really been playing playoff football now for a few weeks. Beating Baltimore, who was fighting for their life. Beating Miami off 4 straight wins. Beating Detroit, who was also battling for their life, and Dan Campbell. Then obviously losing to the Browns sucks, but then we're in a death match. I was saying before the game to a lot of my Steeler friends that going into last night or Sunday night, we really felt that it was a battle of death between Harbaugh and Tomlin. I truly felt that whoever lost that game was going to be fired, and I found myself reminiscing because I knew it was going to be a war. I knew it was going to be all hands on deck, and the game damn near killed me. You guys all saw it going down in the end there. It was a pretty typical Steelers-Ravens game, and then in the fourth quarter, all hell broke loose. So that the Boswell missed field goal was crushing. And then obviously to that 4th and 7 that they converted to Isaiah Likely over the middle crushed me as well. But thank God Tyloo missed the field goal. And so here we are going into the Texan game. In terms of the actual matchup with the Texans, I mean, it's not great. I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, these Texans are really good. They're in a 9-game win streak, I believe. They have the best defense in the NFL. I knew they were number 1 in points against. They might be 2 now after they benched some of their backups or some of their starters. I think they're number 1 still in yards against. So they're wheeling. They're definitely going to be firing. They're tough and physical. But when you take a look at the last few playoff matchups we had, I think this is our most favorable one. I truly am confident going into this game. And you look at last year, heading to Baltimore, who was firing. Then you head to the year before that, heading to Buffalo, who was firing. The year before that, heading to Kansas City, who was also firing. So in terms of those last 4 games, I'm definitely the most confident about this one. But obviously, it's going to be a tough game. It's going to be physical on Monday night. But Tomlin doesn't lose on Monday night, so I'm pretty confident.
This
guy, I think Tomlin's one.
He's the most confident that he's felt in a hot minute is going up against Turtles, Houston Texans.
Let's also remember, that
I kind of agree with
ended
him.
up escaping against Baltimore. After that, he's confident going into this game. After you had to be convinced they were going to lose that game this past week. What a hell of an ending! But go ahead, man.
Guy just hops on the pod like a big dick in the locker room. All right.
Yeah, what is it? Tomlin's won 20 straight Monday Night Football games?
Well, right.
It's something crazy. But in any case, look, I kind of agree with Will in the aspect of the matchup with the Steelers from the Steelers' perspective, because look, I mean, this is coming from me from a Texans angle. I think the teams are very similar. And you can make the argument that maybe the Texans are the more talented version of the Steelers, so to speak. But look, the Steelers still play great defense. I'm majorly concerned about. We can sit here and say the Texans' offensive line's improved. In fact, of the teams in the playoffs, the only team that's given up less sacks in the AFC is the Denver Broncos. So definitely some improvement from the Texans' offensive line. The problem is the offensive line for the Texans still can't run the football. And that Steelers' defensive line can really, really get after it. I mean, this is going to be – we're seeing, a total of, 39.5? That sounds about right, man. This game has 17-13, 20-17 written all over it. And in those games, I mean, those low-scoring games of points at a premium, I mean, those things can get really high variance. And the Steelers have been playing this type of football for a decade plus. And honestly, since the Killer Bees were there. To be honest, this is how the Steelers have been playing football games. And Will, correct me if I'm wrong there, but look, it's going to be a grinded out battle. I've got full faith in the Texans defense. We're dealing with some injuries in the back end. Laster should be back healthy. That should be good. Stingley was dealing with an oblique injury. He played last week. He should be fine. Concerned about Kevon Wallace possibly starting for us in the back end. He gave up some big plays last week against.
He had the worst drop I've ever seen. I'm sorry to cut you off. That was one of the worst plays I've ever seen.
He did not play well. He did not play well. Not an NFL safety that's getting tick out there. That's concerning. But look, everybody should be back outside of that free or that strong safety position. Maybe you have to move Jalen Petrie back to play some state safety and have him play less nickel. I'm not sure how D'Amico Ryans and Matt Burke are going to do it. But I still have faith in this defense. I think that they match up pretty well against the Steelers. I don't think the Steelers can be able to run the football as well as they normally do. The one thing about the Texans that concerns me, though, like I mentioned, is the big plays. And with DK Metcalf coming back, they just cannot let DK Metcalf get open deep. I think you got to trust Stingley and Laster to do their jobs and lock them up. But that's the one concern is the big plays, possibly a big run if they don't have their tackling dialed in, but which we've seen little spurts over the course of the year with some tackling issues. But again, this is the best defense in the league, and I think that they will have a good amount of success on Monday. My concern for the Texans is all on the offensive end of the football. And I'm curious to hear what you guys think. I've kind of already mentioned their inability to run the football, 29th in rushing this year. Slightly better pass blocking, but some breakdowns in communication up front. Definitely going to be a problem against the Steelers front seven. And that concerns me because, again, look, whatever team gets to 23 points first, I think is going to win this football game. And yeah, the line right now is 3.5. I with the Texans offense in a playoff game in cold weather, where the Texans normally haven't played well in cold weather, typically in the playoffs. The times they had to go on the road to Kansas City and Baltimore offensively has not fared well for them. Look, points are going to be at a premium. These are two really good field goal kickers. They should be seeing a lot of action. Some prop bets for you on the kickers. I think you go over both their points and field goals because I think there will be a lot of field goals. Texans are historically bad in the red zone this year. I think they ranked 31st. They broke the record for field goals or tied the record for field goals made this year. That gives you any indication as to their ability to score touchdowns. So yeah, I mean, that concerns me. The Steelers front seven really concerns me in a one-game sample size. Like, I think we're a better football team. I think we're the more talented version of the type of football the Steelers want to play. But in a one-game sample size, when you're laying 3.5 points and points are going to be at a premium, that leaves a lot of variance out there. So that's my initial thoughts on the game. I get nervous for every single Texans game, but this Steelers team concerns me a little bit. I was having an internal debate in my head as I was watching that end of that game unfold on Sunday night, and Lamar looked more like Lamar. I probably still wouldn't want to go to Baltimore because I think they're the more talented team, but I think the matchup with the Steelers, specifically the Steelers defense versus the Texans offense, is a much more concerning one than if we had to go to Baltimore and have our offense play Baltimore's defense, especially with Kyle Hamilton getting a concussion in that game. I felt like Baltimore's defense was on fumes at that point. And I was actually kind of like, I wouldn't mind going to Baltimore because I trust this defense to maybe play a hobbled Lamar Jackson well. And I thought that the Ravens defense, which I would assume would be without Kyle Hamilton, would probably have some more openings than the Steelers defense as currently constructed. So I'm nervous, man. I just still, again, I think that the Texans are the more talented team. We can maybe all agree about that, but the more talented football team doesn't always win, especially when you have to
on the road.
play in the cold on the road. And CJ Stroud's I love Stroud, but he's a California kid. He's not a cold weather playoffs quarterback. At least he hasn't proven that so far. 2 wins have both been Texans home games. 2 losses, both road games in the cold. So,
yeah, I mean, you took the words out of my mouth right there, Turtle, with the question coming down to, in a game that I think will be close, that I think will be dependent on ball control. I think both teams are going to, try to use their defense, lean on their defense in this game to not have to deal with their quarterback getting their head taken off. If it comes to that, with the concern with the Texans pass rush is just ridiculous. So, trying to keep Rodgers upright, give him a clean pocket is going to be huge. And then for CJ Stroud, I mean, what more needs to be said about the play of that offensive line and the struggles that they've had throughout the year and historically. But I think my main question would come down to for both Turtle and Will, just a real quick assessment. Mike, I want to get to you too. But for each of you, with how volatile and how polarizing, I would say, both of your quarterbacks have been this year, what is your confidence level going into this game, scale of 1 to 10? Turtle, I'll start with you. In your quarterback, CJ Stroud, what do you think about CJ on a scale of 1 to 10? What would you rate him?
CJ as a player, I'm probably at about a 7.5 with. I still think CJ Stroud's a really good quarterback.
Sure.
He had decent stats this year. I think he missed a couple games, the concussion, but I still have faith in CJ Stroud. Going into a cold weather game like this, in a 1-game sample, especially with the way that the offense is currently built in the matchup, I'm probably at about a 4 or 5 when it comes to confidence. Now, the Texans can underperform on offense and still win this football game. That's what they've been doing all year. And that's I think you're gonna need an A+ game from this defense to win. Am I highly confident that we're gonna see, a 28-point, I guess I'll call that an outburst for the Texans offense? Very low confidence in a sort of I would say, transcendent, elevating performance from. I hope I'm wrong, but like a transcendent, elevated performance from C.J. Stroud in this offense. I'm just not confident in that happening this week. So that's kind of where I'm at.
So you have respect for the player, but the offense you still have major concerns about going into this game.
I have respect for the play, like the body of work. I'm still at like a 7.5 CJ, but for this specific week with this specific matchup in this specific environment, I'm at about a 4 or 5. But I mean, look, the Texans can score 17 points, and that might be enough to win this football game.
Depends on how well Aaron Rodgers does. So I got to get the read from Will too. Will, body of work and going into this game, you can give me two. Turtle did a cop out and gave me 2 separate numbers here, so I'll allow the same for you. Body of work for Aaron Rodgers as a Steeler. What do you give it on a 1 to 10? And then going into this game, your confidence level, so we can keep it even across both sides here.
I'd say 9 for both, to be honest with you. I mean, I think body of work, especially recently. I took some notes, kind of, Turtle, when you opened up. And what this game is, it's Aaron Rodgers' mind. Like, the Texans defense is the best defense in the NFL. And going into this playoffs, Aaron Rodgers has the most playoff experience out of anybody. Obviously, because he has his long, tenure. But his mind is so elite. He knows where he's going to the ball beforehand. When I see him making checks to the line of scrimmage, I get confident. And it feels like, he knows what's at stake. If he loses this game, I mean, he's retiring most likely. So I trust his mind. And you saw it recently. He's beginning to trust his O-line, which has built up his body of work. You saw him. He had a great game versus Detroit when DK catching his starting to get involved. He had a great game versus Baltimore first time with DK getting involved. Great game versus Detroit. Great game versus Miami. Then when DK got suspended, didn't look great versus Cleveland. But then bounced back in the fourth quarter and third and fourth quarter last week. So honestly, I'm super confident with him because I think if there's any quarterback right now that can go in and beat the Texans defense when they're at a severe disadvantage, I think it's him. And that's why I say going into this game, especially if the most confident than it's been in the past. Another thing too, as you guys mentioned before the podcast started, Perk Rogers. You guys are ferocious, and I think it might not be in your favor to hit him hard early, because if he gets on the perks, it's over. I mean, he's gonna get one last taste, and the drug's gonna hit his system, and he's gonna be loving it. He's gonna be loose. He's gonna come back just like he did in that Bears game. Kind of to wrap everything up there. Yeah, I think I'm super confident in Aaron Rodgers. Like I said, his mind, his ability to make checks. I mean, this is gonna be a ferocious game. I saw something, I believe Nick Wright said it, that an overlooked perk or overlooked positive Aaron Rodgers playing is he wanted to make the season last, right? He wanted to try and play meaningful football late, and he's expressed that in interviews. I think that now it's the playoffs. I think he's to be more willing to get hit, and I kind of agree with Nick Wright. Aaron Rodgers is more likely to stay in the pocket and take a big hit potentially now than in week 3 or week 4 because he knows what's at stake. I think that could really help with this Houston pass rush, and then most importantly too. Like, the reason for my confidence in Aaron Rodgers might not only be because of him, but I think it's the surrounding team. You mentioned a lot about analytics and stuff like that, and I agree the Texans are the better team. But especially in football, when those pads are hitting, it's cold out. A lot of times it's what's your why? Like, why are you going to play harder? Why are you going to make sure you sell out every single play? Where you put it all on the line for the game? And it's because I think of Aaron Rodgers. Everyone on the team respects him. They know that this is, is probably his last year. It's guys like him, it's guys like Cam Hayward, guys like TJ Watt. And I think you saw them rally like last week. And I think they're going to rally versus Houston ferocious team. And the way to beat a physical team like the Texans is to out physical them and outone them. And I think that we're going to see that on Monday. I think they're also fighting for Tomlin too. Now that we're on just the why. And I think that we're going to step up, and I think we're really going to battle them. And I think people are going to rally around Rodgers, and I'm going to trust Rodgers' mind to figure out a way to beat this great Texans defense.
Well, I got a question for you. It's kind of twofold, but on the perimeters, for both the Steelers on offense and defense, I feel like that's kind of their weak point on both sides of the ball. When you talk about the receiver weapons, you really only have DK Metcalf and then some smattering of the tight ends in there. And again, no Darnell Washington again this week, who kind of takes away from that physical factor of your offense. I really enjoy watching Darnell Washington play football. But And then on defense, your secondary, corners and safeties, it seems like that's kind of a weak point for your team as well. Do you think that against this Texans team, is that a concern moving forward? Just because, look, the Texans defense has done an amazing job against receiver after receiver throughout the course of the year. Again, they're second. The reason why they're one of the best defenses is because of their secondary. Laster and Stingley are 2 top 5 corners. Where do you see the success throwing the football for Aaron Rodgers? And counterpoint, defensively, do you think the Texans have a chance to have some success on the perimeters with Nico Collins and Jaden Higgins to what looks like kind of a not banged up, but an older secondary that really, I would say, is middle of the pack if we're being generous?
So I'll start with the offense first. I think that the key to this game is anyone but DK. The one of the most important factors that DK Metcalf brings to the table is obviously how the defense is approaching. So like they shift coverages to him. They got to keep an eye on him because if you don't, he's gonna bust a game open. And I think in a weird fashion, the reason why he was suspended, it allowed Aaron Rodgers to build rapport and trust with other receivers. He got to work with guys like Adam Thielen and Scotty Miller and Pat Fryermuth and Calvin Austin more so than he would have if DK was there. And I think with that trust and with the amount of success we had on offense late in that game versus Baltimore, when the Texans are focusing on DK, I think we're going to be able to really work the middle and work, like you said, the perimeters with the other guys. And another thing that no one really talks about is versus that Cleveland game, Calvin Austin was hurt actually. So it's when he comes back, he can be a deep threat as well that people might not see coming as much. But like I said, I don't necessarily believe that we're going to be just like bombing it on you guys. I think that it's going to be a lot of methodical drives potentially. One stat though that it is very discouraging is I'm pretty sure it's like the Steelers are 7th in yards after the catch for receiving. So it's like it might be like the percentage of the receiving yards or total yards after the catch are 7th. And the Texans are 2nd best, meaning they're great at tackling, they're great at rallying. It's kind of a brutal matchup for us. But with the trust that Aaron Rodgers built with the outside receivers, outside of DK Metcalf, I think that that's how we're going to attack you when you guys are focusing on DK. And then the one time you guys might not focus on DK as much is when Aaron Rodgers is going to hit DK, hopefully for a big play. In terms of defense, I think that our secondary, it was awful to start the season. It kind of started catching its stride later. Last week, I think a lot of those passing yards against us are a little overblown. If you look at the first passing touchdown Lamar had, the long one, the first drive of the game, it was man coverage where Sell not stopped Derrick Henry. And that's honestly the reason for all the touchdowns they had deep were because we were trying to stop Derrick Henry. We were so focused on that rushing attack. But when at the end of the day, it was Jalen Ramsey versus like Baltimore's 4th receiver who had like 10 catches all year. If you told me before that play that, they're gonna throw the ball in one-on-one coverage and Jalen Ramsey was covering Baltimore's 4th receiver, I'd be like, awesome. Like that's the matchup I'd want. Jalen Ramsey took a shallow, misread it, and obviously got burned. Second long pass and touchdown. It wasn't really a scheme thing. It was more so Lamar Jackson just escaped incredibly the sack. I mean, he got hit by Highsmith and Benton and escaped it and threw it on a rope 50 yards downfield perfectly to Zay Flowers. Then the last one, just blown coverage. That'll happen sometimes, which it can't happen versus Houston. Long story short, I'm not that concerned, honestly, about our secondary. I heard a lot of people saying they want to put Joy Porter one-on-one with Nico Collins. I honestly would like that matchup. I think Joy Porter might get flagged a few times for penalties. But
I was gonna say I like that matchup from my end too. I think that's barbecue chicken for Nico Collins.
We'll see then. We'll see. I'm trusting
one-on-one coverage. That I think that's a death knell personally. I think you make the Texans run the football. I think you take Nico Collins out of the game. You make Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel, and Christian Kirk beat you. If you want to play Joey Porter one-on-one with Nico Collins, I'd throw the ball 50 times to Nico if that was the coverage that you guys employed out there.
So normally I agree, but I think Joey Porter Jr. has been really flying under the radar. He's like this whole year has not let up a single touchdown. He's been pretty locked down. He does get a lot of holding penalties. But if we do, right, especially if we can test the waters, if you test JPJ on Nico Collins one-on-one and then divert help elsewhere, and maybe like whatever Mike Tomlin and shit Terrell Allison want to do, they can do. But like I said, I'm actually not as scared of Nico Collins as you guys might think I should be. especially if Joey Porter Jr. is on him, because I think he's a really good corner, and he's shown that this year by.
You sound scared, buddy. You sound scared.
I think he sounds a little more. He sounds a little more arrogant than he does scared.
I would welcome that matchup. Welcome it. If Joey Porter Jr. wants to go one-on-one with Nico Collins for a large portion of the game, I think that works in the Texans' favor. I don't think that's what the Steelers are going to do personally. You'd probably know more than me, but I feel like they're going to come out in some sort of bracket for Nico. They're going to make the other Texans beat them. That seems like more of a recipe to success.
Let's toss a little unbiased red meat out here. Kind of see. Let you guys. We'll do a little idiot jazz off it. I mean, just wherever you guys want to chime in. Let Pat and I just kind of delve into this as unbiased. Talk about this game going in. So, first off, I really want to see how this Texans defensive line is going to go up against this Steelers run game, which I think has been actually really good as of late. And it has been. Jaylen Warren has played fantastic down the stretch. That's a credit to the offensive line. That's a credit to the play calling, because especially they're changing things up, getting the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hands. The combination of here's what I'm very curious to see, because this Steelers team, you talked about it. I mean, they don't like to take the big shots. The chunk plays, the lack of chunk plays are because Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to get hit. And then you throw in Danielle Hunter, you throw in Will Anderson. I mean, he gets the ball out quick. They're quick routes. He's getting the ball out. He might have 1 second to throw, which is more than the second and a half he had against Baltimore. I really don't think he's going to be able to throw the ball downfield. It's going to come down to what I think is going to be that Texans secondary being able to tackle guys in space off of short in routes, short slants, short, just being able to get them within that 10 to 15 yard range. One thing Nick, I think where you guys do have a very good advantage is this 30th ranked against the pass rush Texans offensive line. I feel like the Steelers defense is going to want to get after CJ Stroud and try and give him issues. You're going to need to be able to disrupt him. That's what's staring you right in the face. You have you're fourth in the league at pass rush win rate. That is where I think the Steelers have a major edge, is getting the pressure on CJ Stroud. I mean, but one thing I think, Turtle, you can attest to this as well, especially down the stretch with kind of the play calling that we've seen from the Texans, is they have figured out what this offense's weakness is, and that is dropping CJ Stroud back and going to make a play. They are working him out of the pocket strategically. You're seeing him get out of the pocket, get guys on play action fakes. He's running out to the side, dropping into a box, and getting a lot of dink and dunk plays and short and intermediate routes. And it's really helped them with time of possession in a lot of the games that they have played, especially down the stretch. And I think a major part of that, and Turtle, you had touched on it, but Nick Caley knowing like this offensive line, it is to their benefit to get CJ Stroud back, get that ball out of his hand as fast as they can. They really do keep defenses on their toes by masking their weakness, which is just not having a solid run game to lean on. And I think really where that comes down to is if you're the Steelers, your biggest challenge every time the Texans have the ball is where is CJ Stroud on the field at all times? Because one thing that since you've moved Jalen Ramsey to safety, you guys are actually playing pretty – before the move for Jalen Ramsey to safety, the Steelers were getting absolutely killed over the middle. Now, middle of the pack since moving Jalen Ramsey to safety. I don't think you're going to see a lot of single high coverage. I don't think you're going to see a lot of single high coverage from the Steelers, because that is where CJ Stroud has made his bread and butter this entire year. A lot of split safety, I think, coming up in this game, just based off of what's going to give you the advantage. I think you're going to see a much different defense. I'm very curious to see, what you guys are going to do out of that. And here's where you can attest, Will. I mean, it's not the best secondary, and what we've seen, I think at least what I've seen, I'm sure Turtle, you can attest to it too, is the best we've seen out of CJ Stroud is when he's getting out of the pocket and allowing his athletes in Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel, and especially Nico Collins to be athletes. Honestly, that's also where you have like a shot at getting some run looks as well, is a little bit of play action, mixing that in there. Now, the only success I think that the Steelers have on defense is holding up in coverage and allowing the pass rush to get home. If you guys can exploit the offensive line of the Texans, you allow, you put the pressure on CJ Stroud, but the coverage has to hold up in the back end. Are you going to be able to minimize the CJ Stroud rollouts? That's the thing. He's been doing great when they sell the play action. He's been doing great out of the pocket. The defense has been taking the cheese, but will they? Because this is not a good running team. I think that's where the cat and mouse game kind of comes into this. One thing, Will, and I'd like you to chime in on this one. So what especially I think we've all seen from Aaron Rodgers especially in this stretch to get to the playoffs, is he really trusts Pat Freiermuth. He really trusts Darnell Washington. The Texans are top 5 in covering tight ends, and he's consistently going to Muth, going to Darnell Washington, and then you add in this pass rush, and you're talking about intermediate throws when you're having some of the biggest dogs in terms of linebackers and a great defensive line coming at him. And it's an offense predicated on explosive plays. Where do you think the offense comes from when they are dead set on taking explosive plays away?
If I'm being 100% honest, I think Adam Thielen. I mean, you look at the game versus Detroit, he was one of the biggest playmakers on our team. I believe he had 2 or 3 3rd and 10 conversions to keep those drives going versus Detroit. And like you said, they're great versus tight ends. They're going to try and close out DK Metcalf. If that's the case, then we'll have no choice but Calvin Austin and Adam Thielen, especially. Thielen has been coming up huge and multiple 3rd down conversions. He had that big catch versus Baltimore over the shoulder. He had other huge catches, like I said, versus Detroit to convert. And like at the end of the day, it's gonna be them, but also too, it's gonna have to be Steelers players just being men. they have to break some tackles, which is great Texan defense, and explode. And maybe we can hope for some flags, some fluke stuff going down too. But like I said, I think my answer to that question, if they do take away the tight end specifically, will be Adam Thielen. That's my player to watch this game.
Adam Thielen, player to watch.
Adam Thielen.
Well, one nice.
I'm not sweating. I'm not sweating that one.
Well, I think.
No offense, Will. I'm not. If Adam Thielen beats us, then you know what? Maybe when we weren't destined for much in the first place.
The one nice thing I think you have playing to your advantage, though, is this Texans team does not run the ball well, but what I think their run game has been the short, intermittent throws, getting the ball out of CJ Stroud's hands and having an efficient pass game. And it's been methodical runs. You guys have absolutely owned the time of possession, Turtle, in the games down the stretch. But
it helps having a great defense too.
It does. It helps having a great defense. It helps having a great defense, but are they going to be able to maximize the red zone opportunities? I don't think the Texans blow the Steelers out of the water in this game. I think this is really a race to 24 points, maybe even less, as you were mentioning, Turtle, to win. And if the Steelers do get into Texans territory and they move this ball against this Texans defensive line, and the cornerbacks, you have to convert. You have to convert because red zone may be the 25, 30 and in. This is probably the last game for not only Aaron Rodgers, but a lot of the veterans on that Steelers defense too. So one thing I think you guys the only way I think you guys are going to be able to take advantage of this Texans defense with likely going into the game saying we're taking away the run game. We're going to make Aaron Rodgers absolutely get this. It's going to be Pat Freiermuth and Darnell Washington. The tight ends are going to play a big play in this game because they're also going to be run blocking, and then they're going to have to get out and be able to hit a 5-10 yard out route. And then with the defensive line and the pass rush that's going to be coming, this is a defense from the Texans that I think can absolutely win them the Super Bowl. That's why they're legitimate Super Bowl contenders. Will, can you sit here on the Bulletin Board Sports Podcast tonight on January 6th and say that you have a Super Bowl contending team right now?
Yes. Yes, I can.
Okay. All right.
I actually this morning when I was going to work, I was about to put $100. I think we're 55. I think that plus 5,500 to win the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah.
I you know what? Put 100 there, and if we go, or if we win it, that's a free Super Bowl ticket. At least if I can maybe cash out for either way. Yes, I do. And like I said, it goes more than like the like the analytics or whatnot. It goes for the belief. It feels a lot like that Super Bowl run we went on with Jerome Bettis' final year. I mean, we had to win our last 6 games of the season that year. Then we had to go into Cincinnati, who was supposed to murder us, and beat them. Then we had to go play the number 1 offense in the league in Indianapolis, and we beat them. Then we had to go into Denver and beat them, and we did that. And that all started, and that's because we gained speed coming into the playoffs. One thing too, before I forget, before I kind of go on why I think we can do it, you mentioned right the deficiency in Houston's red zone. The Steelers, that's our strength. We do find ways oftentimes to score when in the red zone. And I think if we can hold Houston to field goals and we can convert on some of those red zone drives like we've been doing all year, that's where I'll find success. Either way, this Steelers team, right? It's when you look at the past few years when we've made it to the playoffs, we've limped in. I mean, it's been like last year we lost like our last 5 games. The year before that we were terrible, and then like limped into the playoffs to get murdered. Ben's year kind of similar, and it really hasn't been since 2016 where we've that year we were 4-5 at one point. Then we gained speed, made it to the AFC Championship, won a run. So that's kind of like where I'm feeling. I think that kick, the missed field goal, I think it gave us a sense of belief, and it gave us a sense of like we're playing with house money. We're it's like Tommy Shelby, this is all extra time. So we can go out there, we can play ballsy, right? I think we're going to play aggressive, and I think that if you start believing in Aaron Rodgers in his mind, I think that we have a run. So yes, I do say that on the Bulletin Board podcast that the Steelers do have a chance to win the Super Bowl. And man, if we beat this tough Texan team, I mean, like I said, I had it marked down before. I mean, when I saw Indy make that field goal, I was happy because the number 1 team I don't want to play in the AFC is the Bills. Number 2 is Jacksonville, and number 3 is the Texans. Luckily, Jacksonville and Buffalo are playing this week, so one of those teams will get knocked out. But man, if we can advance after this week, I mean, I think I'm not that scared of New England. I'm not that scared of Denver. I'm not scared of the Chargers, and so like I said, we'll see. But yes, I do think we can go on a run.
A couple of matchups that I actually want to dive into. I want to hear your thoughts on these, Turtle. Is getting DK off the suspension, probably going to be matched up 1-on-1 with Derek Stingley alive. And then you're going to have Aziz Shire and then To'o going up against Darnell Washington. And
Washington's out, Mike.
Washington's out.
Oh, Washington's out.
Yeah.
Pat, who is do you guys have a second?
Jonnu Smith.
Jonnu
Smith. Is Jonnu healthy now?
Yeah. So
healthy.
I guess 2 decent pass catching tight ends against 2 very good linebackers. They'll probably be lined up against them and likely man coverage and zone. But I mean, I don't know. I just have a tough time seeing with a Pittsburgh offense that was struggling against a Ravens defense once Kyle Hamilton even went out. Just being able to find enough explosive plays to just beat this beat this stalwart of a Texans defense. And I think it's all going to come down to, is CJ Stroud going to protect the ball 100%? I mean, you cannot be giving plays away in the playoffs. I don't think we're going to see that. But I mean, Turtle, what do you think are kind of like the keys of the game when you break it down that way and see what the Texans are going to need to do on the offensive side of the ball?
Yeah, on the offensive side of the ball, I think it's we talked about it a little bit earlier, but you've got to exploit your matchups on the outside when you get them. It's going to be a big Nico Collins game. I think if the Texans are going to have success, it's going to be one of those 7 catches for 110 yards and a touchdown from Nico Collins. Look, Jaden Higgins has been coming around as a player. He's made some plays in the back half of the year. I really like Jalen Noel, his explosiveness in the slot. I think, look, I hope to God the Texans don't bring Christian Kirk back for $16 million like we paid him this year. I find it hard to believe he'll be back anyways, because I think Jalen Noel at this point is probably a better, more explosive option in the slot. But look, you got to exploit your matchups on the outside because I do think they're going to struggle to run the football. And you mentioned the pass protection, Mike. The pass protection is above 30th. They've been better this year. I think the Texans' offensive line gets a little bit of a bad rep. They're definitely not good run blocking, and they're not great in pass protection. But this unit as is right now is better at pass blocking than last year's unit that made it to the divisional round. That was with Laramie Tunsil, who, by the way, who the Bulletin Board Sports Pod listeners know is my arch nemesis, one of the most hated players that I have pinned up on the Bulletin Board hate list, Laramie Tunsil, because this offensive line has a little bit of a different mentality now that slob has been traded. But anyways,
Mr. Beyonce.
He doesn't practice, man. He doesn't practice, doesn't play hard. I mean, cool pass set. Yeah, really good in pass pro, but you couldn't beg that guy to run block. Which I guess we're not good run blocking anyways, but at least they try. But no, I think you got to exploit your matchups on the outside. You mentioned it too, Mike. The quick passing game I think is going to be really important. That's been good the back half of the year. Look, this game is going to be a big referendum, I think, on Nick Caley. I think Nick Caley is probably back no matter what next season, just based the offense has improved in some meaningful spots this year. It was really ugly to start. They've gotten better. Are they great? No, but they've improved over the course of the year. I do think it's a referendum on how Texans and the Texans fans will feel going into next season, depending on what Nick Caley can dial up in this game, because he's going to have a full set of man beaters. He's going to have answers to Nico Collins, getting bracketed. And look, to be frank, they got to have answers in the red zone, because you mentioned it too. The Texans are I think 31st in red zone conversion, and the Steelers are really good at converting touchdowns. And I think that, look, whichever team scores them, it's going to sound, like of course, but whichever team scores more touchdowns in this game is going to win. Whichever team takes advantage of their opportunities, if they get to first and goal, is going to have a huge leg up. And I don't trust the Texans do that entirely. Now, I feel like this entire pod, we've been absolutely nuking the Texans for the most part. This feels like a Steelers fan party right now. So I'm gonna push back a little bit on this whole belief narrative. Like the Texans don't have belief themselves, or like the Texans can be bullied, or the Texans can be this and that, because this is not a team that gets bullied. This defense, you mentioned them being physical. Well, the la-di-do, we're playing for Rodgers. Yeah, you can go walk out there and play for Rodgers all you want, but when you're getting your ass beat every single play, it's not going to matter if you're playing for Rodgers. You're still getting your ass beat. And look, this is a franchise that has never made it past the divisional round. This is a franchise that just won 12 games for its second time in its entire team history. All right, this is one of the few teams. I think they're the only team that hasn't made a conference championship game. I mean, there's a lot of belief for this team to make a push now, and they've got plenty to play for. No, they don't have any veterans that are going to retire after the year, possibly. It probably won't be their last hurrah, but that's not going to make them go out there and think that the Texans, which have been one of the most downtrodden franchises since its existence, doesn't want to make it to a conference championship game because Aaron Rodgers wants to have a nice send-off. This team will bully you if given the opportunity and the chance. So I just want to taper back on this whole belief story that look, that's all good and great, and I completely agree with you. Like the Steelers have a lot of extra motivation, but this Texans team also does too. Like they're not just going to lay down flat or in the belief that this team's going to play harder because it's Aaron Rodgers last year. Again, that's all fine and great, but this Texans team isn't going to lay down because the Steelers are maybe hitting a little bit harder or they're gonna have their backs against the wall. Like that this team has a lot of motivation to play for. This is a fan base that has been desperate to make it to an AFC Championship game at the bare minimum. And I think this team is well aware of those facts. Will Anderson said today in his press conference, "We've got 4 games to empty the gas tank," is what he said.
We need a rebuttal from Will.
Will, I'll throw a little.
I had to push back a little bit because I felt like we were getting like, very much like this is the Steelers game.
Like it's a Steelers fairy tale or something over here.
Yeah, like it's a Steelers fairy tale. I just want to remind everybody that this Texans team isn't just going to lay down or they're not going to get bullied because the other team is playing harder for their quarterback who's going to retire after the year. I mean, this Texans defense are killers. They're straight up killers.
One point turtle that, for the Texans, I think this also may be a game, and we saw it when the Steelers played the Browns, is you're so worried about this pass rush, you're not worried enough about winning the game. You're so worried about protecting Aaron Rodgers that you're not worried about winning the game. You're not worried about making plays. You just want to keep him upright to be able to try and do something. And I don't think this Texans defensive line and the linebackers and a pretty decent secondary is going to do that for you guys. I mean, I got the Texans at 2.5. So actually, I'll take them at 3. Give it to them.
All right. Well, Twitter, I like that speech there. I do. You guys.
I had to fire back, Will. I mean, you were. I feel like you were dogging my team there for a little bit. I had to be like, I recognize they've got weaknesses, but I had to fire back because I felt like we were gassing up the Steelers, which rightfully so. You're a Steelers guy.
Yeah.
You gotta come in here and gas them up. I'm a Texans guy. I had to push back. I couldn't just lay down.
All right, Will, give us your best Rudy speech right now, brother. You got this.
Let's just say, it's nice to be killers and whatnot when you play in a dome and you live in Houston and stuff like that. When you're playing the freezing cold in Pittsburgh and then we're thumping. I mean, that's a whole different
fan base isn't going to matter in Pittsburgh. It's going to be packed out with Steelers fans in the black
Steelers
and
gold. fans that are fighting for their first playoff win in 9 years. Since I was in 8th grade, their first playoff win. You're looking at the first true playoff game with fans since 2017. We played in 2020 there with no fans and COVID. That does not matter. You're about to walk into a hostile environment. Let's not forget who the Steelers were supposed to be this year. The Steelers were supposed to be what the Texans defense is. That was our motto. We have the highest paid or second high paid defense. I know either the Steelers or the Texans are 1 and 2. But that's 2. And we still have names in our defense. And not only do we have names, we also have our killers. And our killers, maybe, they've been not showing up like they should for the past few this whole season. But guess what? In the playoff game in Pittsburgh in front of their home fan base, they're going to show up. And they're going to thump TJ Stroud, and I think we're going to rattle him. And I think that when he's cold, he's going to get hit. He's not going to want it anymore. He needs to be thinking, I got next year. Why am I going to step up and take another hit? It's not going to be thinking that? Rodgers. Rodgers is not going to be thinking that.
He's not going to be thinking anything.
It feels shit.
You talk about, you're soft, your offensive line that's trying in the run blocking. Well, they're going to have to do a lot more than try. They're going to be physical. They're going to have to be physical in the cold.
The front four of the Steelers is my biggest concern for this football game. It's very much my biggest concern because they can game wreck. Highsmith is a great player. Cam Hayward is one of the most highly graded defensive tackles this entire season. Even at his ripe age, what is he? 38 now. He's got to be up there. But he's playing some great football. Great football. TJ Watt's back. I mean, that's my biggest concern for the game. Like that, I think we're going to see 2 teams. It's going to be a matter of outbullying each other, and maybe it is a matter of us sitting here. We're talking about belief. Well, it's going to be a who wants it more type of game is what it's kind of going to be trending towards because it's going to be extremely, extremely physical. At least for both offenses, I think. Let
me come at it from one more angle, though. We talk about who wants it more, who's going to out physical. Both of these teams are elite at 1, taking the ball away, and 2, taking care of the ball. Now they're both top 10. I think they're both top 5 in takeaways, and they're both top 10. I think the Texans are the Texans have the second fewest giveaways of any team in the league. So I think what this game really comes down to is a turnover, a crucial turnover in a huge moment in a close game. So I'm curious from Mike, from your perspective, and from Turtle and Will, and your probably more biased perspectives, where does the big turnover come in this game? Who's taking the ball away? Who's giving it up? And is it the Steelers or the Texans that are going to have the crucial turnover? Because it's bound to happen one way or the other. These two teams, one of them's going to be able to take it away, and one of them's going to be able to take care of the ball. I think it's going to come down to that. But Mike, as an unbiased fan first, and then we can move to Turtle and Will because I want your answers on this too. Who's getting the big takeaway in this game, and how are they getting it? What's going to happen?
Well, I think actually where the big takeaway is going to come in this game is probably going to be most likely from a fumble in the backfield. I mean, you talk about, TJ Watt's going to be returned. He returned from his, lung injury on Sunday from, to play the Steelers. They do have their top 3 available at that position. Significantly reduced workload for, Herbig, Watt, Highsmith. How are they going to play all that together? I think the big plays are going to come against, Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson and this Texans pass rush, either getting after Aaron Rodgers, forcing a fumble, forcing, hitting his arm when it goes forward, or the same for the Steelers. I think we're going to see the biggest turnovers in the backfield that are going to be able to flip the field even more than I think these guys giving the ball away. I don't exactly see a lot of turnovers happening from the quarterbacks in terms of interceptions. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to play it smart. I think this is one game where he will be very conservative in terms of the shots that he takes. I think that's also going to be the same for CJ Stroud in the cold, especially. He's not going to want to take the shots that are going to absolutely nuke a drive. I think one of the biggest plays are going to come down to who's going to win at the line of scrimmage, who's going to sack fumble, who's going to force a turnover from a quarterback by hitting him. I mean, Watt, Herbig, Highsmith, that could very well be in play. We already know what the Texans are going to be doing up front. I think that's where you're going to get your biggest spot for a turnover. And I think you could actually see now I'm talking myself into it. I would actually love a defensive touchdown in this game. I think one of those units is going to be able to get enough juice against these offensive lines to actually make something happen in the backfield and flip that field position for themselves and for their team.
Will, where's it coming from? There's going to be a big turnover in this game. How's it go down?
TJ Watt, fourth quarter. I think I can already picture it. It's going to be 13-10. Either we're winning or we're losing, but that's going to be the score. TJ Watt in Texan territory is going to come around, strip sack Stroud. We're going to score, and that's going to be it. I can see it already, and I think it's just going to be just a man play from TJ coming off the edge and strip sack and Stroud.
And it could just be one of those plays that just flips the game. That's the crazy thing.
Mm-hmm.
Be a huge play, be the biggest play in Steelers history, this Steelers modern history. Let's call it
modern. For
immaculate
sure.
reception. Would have something to say about that. But
yeah.
Turtle, where's it going to come from the Texan side here?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think it's going to be. Mike mentioned it, it's going to be hard to get an interception off these quarterbacks. One way I do think it could happen, though, and the Texans have a propensity of doing this, is you got a corner with, I think, who has the best ball skills in the entire league, Derek Stingley. He's got the best ball skills of any corner in the entire league. Laster's got 4 or 5 interceptions this year. I think it's going to come off of a quick slant, probably targeting DK Metcalf against one of those two corners. It's going to be tipped up in the air. It's going to be broken up and tipped up in the air, and you've got one of the best ball hawking safeties in the league in Kalen Bullock that's going to get tips and overthrows. It's going to be one of those scenarios. Kalen Bullock, interception. I think that's a possibility. Look, I mean, we brushed on it, and we talked a lot about the Texans pass rush. These DBs, man, are not to be trifled with either. I mean, it's 2 top 5 corners. It's a great safety in Bullock, who's on a rookie deal. I think Jalen Petrie showed a nose for the football this year as well from the nickel spot. And look, Jalen Petrie, I think, is going to find some action covering these tight ends as well. And I like that sort of matchup, kind of use him how the Chargers use Derwin James. I think Petrie with his physicality matches up well, at least with Freiermuth. Maybe not so much as if they had Darnell Washington. But that's where I think the pick's coming from. One more point. I am concerned about this too, offensively for the Texans. They have had a issue with execution, especially in the red zone when it comes to penalties, pre-snap penalties. They've had a big problem with that. It somewhat mitigated by trading Tunsil, but still it's kind of been widespread this year, especially in the red zone and on the road in a hostile environment. I am concerned about that as well. Again, they're going to have to execute really well in this football game. No pre-snap penalties, especially when you get down to the red area. Another concern of mine. That's why they've been so bad this year for the most part in that area of the field. Another reason why going on the road in this game, it's why I opened up the pod with, I've got some concerns, just matchup wise. And a lot of that has to do with home field advantage for the Steelers against that great front four. But tipped slant pass, DK Metcalf, picked off by Kalen Bullock. That's what I'm going with.
Pin it.
The only thing I think that might play into the Steelers' favor though is third down conversion rate. They're a little bit better, about like 14th on the league right now. Third down conversion rates. Texans are 23rd. You throw in the cold in there, playoff game. That's where the bread and butter's made. So just see what happens there.
Should we, before we get out of here, should we do score predictions? I always think that's fun.
I was gonna say, yeah. And Mike, you confirmed that it was a 2.5 point spread at this point. Is that right?
I think it opened at 3.5 from what I saw. I'll check now.
It opened at 2.5. It's at 3 right now.
Okay.
All right, give me the points. Give me the Steelers to win. I'm Will's got me convinced here. And honestly, as a Bears fan, I'm so traumatized that Aaron Rodgers playing some of the best football of his not some of the best football of his career, but best football outside of being a Packer since those back-to-back MVP seasons in the early 2020s. Here we are. I think I still have to see it from the Texans on the road in the cold in a big game here. And the Steelers have some mojo going their way. I think a big kick by Chris Boswell to redeem himself wins the game 20-17 Steelers in a barn burner. Mike, what's your prediction on this one?
It does not look like it's going to be easy for the Steelers, but 3.5 point dogs in Heinz Field. I'm going to go Steelers 22, Texans 18.
Wow, I did not expect it to go this way. Will has won some guys over here. Turtle, did we lose you?
I didn't realize I was on mute, but I was like, I thought Mike bet the Texans, and now his score prediction.
I thought you said for sure that the Texans were going to win earlier in the pod.
Yeah, you really threw a curveball there.
Maybe you got convinced. Turtle, what's your prediction this one?
Yeah, my prediction is 17-13. Very low scoring. Aaron Rodgers talked about it during the Ravens game. He talked about how they needed 4 points. His helmet comm wasn't working. He found a way to get the touchdown for the Steelers. I'm not saying his helmet's going to stop working, but I could see a similar scenario happening. I think the Texans defense gets it done late in the game, get the stop that they needed. Texans win a very gritty, low-scoring game, 17-13.
All right, well, round us out on score prediction here.
So like I said, I mean, obviously the Texans, man, they're a very good team. I don't want to take anything away from it. It's going to be a bloodbath. The one thing you can guarantee on is it's going to be a really hard-hitting game. It's going to be an absolute war. So it'll be one of the games to look back on in a few years when they do those NFL films, and it's just people getting crunched after crunch after crunch. Like I said, and as I've kind of said all podcast, I mean, obviously the Texans, like on paper, are the better team. And like the analysts are going to pick them. Most people are going to pick them. But I think this game and the physicality nature of it, I think this game with the weather, I think this game with all the stakes around it, I think you're gonna have to dig a little deeper to win. I do think the Steelers have that belief, whether it's around Rodgers, whether it's around Tomlin, whether it's around Cam Hayward or TJ Watt or the other vets like Adam Thielen, who hasn't really done anything in his career in terms of like playoff wise. So I think 23-17 Steelers do win. I think though that the Texans have the ball and are driving with an opportunity to possibly take the lead. And I do think that a TJ Watt sack seals the game. But the one thing you can guarantee too is it's going to be a super stressful game. It's going to be, It's going to come down to the wire. And I hope that, because honestly, man, I haven't seen a close playoff game the Steelers have played in 8 years. So it's going to be really stressful. I think it's coming down to the wire, but I do think the Steelers, I mentioned before, I think TJ Watt's going to be a big aspect. I think he's going to get a turnover late in the fourth in the Texans zone. I think the Steelers are going to score if it's either going to extend their lead or give them the lead. And I think at the end of the game, the Texans are going to have the ball. They're going to have an opportunity to drive down. They're going to begin to drive, but I think TJ Watt's going to end it.
It's more.
We both have the game ending with our defenses stopping the opposing offense, which I think is a testament to how we think this game is going to go. It should be fun. I definitely think it's going to come down to the wire, 100%. The Texans are notorious this year for playing close games against anybody. It's just how they play. It's how the Steelers play too. It's going to come down to the last possession for one of these teams. No doubt in my mind.
Monday's going to be excruciating. I don't know how I'm going to get any work done.
All right. Before we get out of here, I just want 30 seconds to a minute from both Turtle and Will, both of you guys. 30 seconds to a minute each. If you could be in the locker room and give that speech before they come out of the tunnel for this game to motivate them, what are you saying to your team on the way out? What's the Rudy speech, as Mike referenced it before? Turtle, what would you be saying to these guys for the Texans in order to come out with a win in this game?
D'Amico Torbett.
Yeah. Hopefully I don't go full Jonathan Gannon and ask them if they took the bus to work today.
Got that fire in your gut?
Yeah. Do they have their fire? And I sure damn hope so. But no, look, I'm referencing to them. I'm saying, look, I talked about earlier, but this is a decrepit franchise that has yet to sniff an AFC championship game. This is a team that came in with heavy expectations this year. We're going to go in there. We're going to play our game. We're going to, what Nico Ryans always says, we're going to swarm. The Steelers are going to get swarmed. We're going to lift this franchise to heights that we haven't seen. And it starts with this game today. That's all I got. That was more like Jonathan Gannon, but
wasn't exactly D'Amico, but let's see. Will, what do you got? I feel like Will's going to have something good if he could talk to this Steelers team and really motivate him for the first time since he's been the eighth grade.
You shouldn't need any motivation for this game.
Yeah. Well, hey, it's the power of belief. It's the power of friendship with Aaron Rodgers, apparently, is gonna power them to a victory. So let's see.
I'd probably say, man, look at the situation we're in. Look at the situation, home playoff game. If you told us that, back in August that we'd be hosting a home playoff game versus Texans, we'd take that all day. But more importantly than that, I want you to look at everything we've been doubted. Everyone that's been booing Mike Tomlin has been, me including, chanting, booing Renegade, firing Mike Tomlin.
Me leading it.
Yeah, true. Me, everyone, hating on us for drafting for it. I look at Aaron Rodgers, honestly, they laughed at us for taking you. They look at TJ Watt, they say, you haven't won a playoff game, TJ. Look at Cam. What have you done in your career outside of, the regular season, stuff like that? So I'd really say, look at the moment. And I'd say that, and you look at all the analysts, man, everyone's going to count us out and talk about this vaunted defense. Well, the Steelers are supposed to be vaunted on defense too. We're going to have to go out there. I say, do not take any play for granted. We're playing for our careers here, playing for our lives, honestly. And you know what? Go out there, hit them as hard as you can, out hit the hitters, out hit the killers, and make the hunted become the hunted real quick. I say it's gonna be a defensive battle. Every time you touch the ball, make it count. Every time you're on the field, make it count on special teams, offense, defense. I want to see Ben Skowronek get a big hit. I want to see Aaron Rodgers play for his destiny, go out one last time in the Super Bowl run. I want to see TJ Watt cement a legacy. I want to see Cam Hayward cement a legacy. I want to see, all these guys come to fruition. I want to see us come out to win. I want to see us out hit them. That's the number one thing I want to see, and I'm really fired up to hopefully see it.
I am fired up. After both those
Will
speeches
kind of
right now, I'm ready.
Will kind of cooked me there, but listen. It's easier as
we're gonna give a rebuttal now.
No, I'm just saying it's being the underdog, especially when you've got. Look, this is a juicy narrative, I think, for both teams. But the Steelers' narrative is way more entertaining from the standpoint of the Rodgers and backs against the wall, last game possibly for a lot of those guys. That's maybe Will's right. That might cause a little extra something.
I will say, man, I just hope we don't get blown out. That's the one thing. If you know, with all the stigma that's been going down, you know, with like the pass play games, if this gets out of hand quick, I think we're gonna tell like 1 or 2 drives into the game how it's gonna be. If we come out there and we stuff you guys and we start hitting, and we get into a game, it's gonna be real physical. But if we let you guys march down the field and score, and then we go 3 and out, then you march on the field and score, and the next thing you know, we blink and we're down 14-0. You have the ball. That's bad, but I don't think that's going to happen. I truly think this year is different. I think this team's honestly different. I think we're clicking at the right time, and I'm excited to really see what we put out there in the field. And
you can say that for both teams, I think, too. Like, if the Texans go down 14-0 quick, like they give up a big play on the first drive, offense stalls out after 3 plays, Pittsburgh goes down and gets like a field goal and it's 10-0, I'm going to be like distraught. Because I think a double-digit lead for either of these teams is tough. But
where a lot of my stuff came into play is just, dude, they literally just cut. What the fuck was his name? Kylan or
you gotta have the name ready.
Okay. No, they just cut Kayvon Wallace because he got fucking smoked against the Chargers. So
they did cut that guy.
Yeah, and I just feel like it's not a great.
He deserved it after that.
He did, but not the best. Like, it's your ass next going into the playoffs. But
I think any player. I mean, this is a weird way to end the podcast talking about Kayvon Wallace, but I think any player who makes that bad of a drop in an NFL game, who I mean, you're a DB, so you're not getting paid to catch the ball. But that was one of the worst plays I've ever seen. So hopefully we don't see anything like that. As a neutral fan. Who doesn't really have a dog in this fight. I obviously have some hard feelings against Aaron Rodgers for all the pain he's inflicted on me as a Bears fan throughout my life, literally like my entire life as a fan. I mean, for as long as I've been a hard fought, as long as I've been a diehard Bears fan, it's been like Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers ruining my day. So it's a weird spot to be in, but I do think you got to pull for the guy because it's entertaining. I mean, if nothing else, it's going to be a good story. And I'm fired up for Monday night. I know Turtle and Will are. Mike, it's as a Browns fan, are you rooting against the Steelers here? What's the read on that right before we get off here?
Oh, absolutely. I'm rooting against the Steelers with
Fair
all
enough.
my heart. With all my heart. Doesn't mean I don't.
All right. Well,
win, but
to balance it out, Go ahead, Turtle.
I just want to say one thing. The winner of this game is going to have they might be in like I'm just saying this unbiasedly, like the winner of this game, I'm full on probably, unless the Texans, but I'm full on fading them the next week because they're going to be so beat up after this game, probably on a short week too, playing on Monday. You're going to probably play on Sunday. Just want to get that little handicapping angle out there that is unbiased. It's going to be a tough spot for whoever wins this game, but
we're just pouring cold water on the speeches that we just gave. I was so fired up, and now I'm thinking about how beat up everybody's going to be. Mike's talking about.
We're going to go one game at a time. We'll deal with that problem. I haven't seen Kayvon Wallace getting cut. I just checked on Twitter. But
fake news from Mike.
Yeah.
All right.
Can we since we have it here and the Browns have fired Kevin Stefanski, can I do my little 2-minute dick flute solo?
Yeah.
Hey. At the end of a hour-long breakdown of Texans Steelers, Mike, you can have 2 minutes to talk about the Browns. You go for it, man.
Yeah.
Thank you, Pat. Madam Senator, you've yielded the floor.
Madam Senator, I'm gonna take my time back if you don't correct yourself.
So we fired Kevin Stefanski. Saw it coming. The writing was on the wall. I think the guy got dealt a terrible hand since he got, put into the role. But when you go 45 and 56 in 6 years, it's done. We need a meaningful coach who is going to be able to develop either who we got at quarterback or develop Dante Moore, or whatever may come of Deshaun Watson. Make sure the offense is run and develops well, is what Andrew Berry said, as opposed to, maybe even being the person that directly develops that offense. I kind of like that statement from him. I think that opens up the door to a lot of people that the Browns could bring in. Shedeur Sanders has not been endorsed as a starter for next season, so we shall see. It's a high-ranking draft. There's a lot of things at play. We need to beef up the offensive line. We need to beef up the secondary. We have a very good defensive line. I think what does come back to bite us in the ass a little bit is trading away that second overall pick and then later taking Dylan Gabriel instead of beefing up that offensive line with that pick. But we'll see. I think really what this comes down to is what Andrew Berry is going to do in this upcoming draft, and then we'll get it out to see if we can get to 5 wins.
What an optimistic outlook from Mike. No quarterback. We'll see if we can get 5 wins. You think you're gonna have a shot at Dante Moore? I don't think so.
Probably not.
I don't think he gets past 3. Turtle, you're muted.
Sorry. I believe before the season, Christian and Mike sat here with straight faces and said the Browns are going to win 8 games.
Oh yeah, we were getting laughed out of the pod.
Me and you were getting laughed out of the pod.
Absolutely. Or daring to question the Commanders. There's another thing we were right about, Turtle.
Yeah,
hating the Commanders from the.
We can save all this little recap for the end of the year. But
right.
Look, Will, I'm excited to play you on Monday. It's going to be an absolute slugfest.
I agree. It's gonna be a fun game. Or sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. You can go on. No,
you're good. That's kind of all I had.
Okay, yeah, it's gonna be a war.
I'm pumped for it, and if it's a great game, one way or the other. I might be slightly partial to the Steelers, so we can have Will on for another week here at some point, just so we can get another one of those speeches or hear more about the belief in the Aaron Rodgers fairy tale here. But I always gotta ride for the Texans too, for a little bit of turtle talk at the same time. So somebody's gonna come away happy and somebody's gonna be heartbroken. It's just the way it goes in the playoffs. But I know you guys are going to be sweating all weekend for this game.
Oh, yeah.
I'm surprised Mike didn't pull a John Gruden quote and said, "I'm not into dreams, I'm into nightmares."
All I know is nightmares.
I'm surprised Mike didn't just say he wanted John Gruden as the coach of the Browns, but
I already
did.
On the record.
Will, did you have a sign off on us?
No, man, I think I will say, man, thank you guys for having me on here. It's been awesome. But I think Mike Tomlin's coaching for his job here. I'm gonna call it right here. I honestly, like I said, I know I was in the mob mentality at the Steelers-Bills game, chanting to fire Mike Tomlin and to turn that shit off to renegade right when I saw it come on. But at the end of the day, he is a really good coach. He's brought a lot of bad teams into the playoffs, which I think why you see us get blown out. That being said, man, I do think he's coaching for his career. I think that the very best that win versus Baltimore just delayed the inevitable. And I think if he comes out this week, if he lays an egg if we get blown out, if it looks anything like it does the previous few playoff games, I think he's gone. I think honestly, even if he loses, he's gone. I think he knows that. So man, I'm rooting for him, man. I hope he wins. Obviously, I think it's gonna be a bloodbath. And at the end of the day, I just hope it's a physical game. I hope that it's not a blowout. And I hope that it's me and Turtle can at least be proud of what we see from our team. And that's going to come down to how hard we hit.
Well, as long as you're proud.
Can you give us 20 seconds on the Browns?
Yeah, I honestly, man, here's the thing about the Browns. I'm terrified to play them every year. We haven't won in Cleveland since 2021 with Ben. So it's always a tough game. I knew we were going to lose this year before. I told all my friends, whatever. But I think Kevin Stefanski's a good coach. If Mike Tomlin does get fired, and I wouldn't be opposed to hiring Stefanski. I think he was dealt a shit card and shit hand. And more than me, but was he the one that cut Mayfield? Was he the one that gave Deshaun all that money? Was he the one that drafted 2 quarterbacks in the same draft? So I think he's been fighting an uphill battle, and he's clearly shown potential. With coach of the year 2 times. So we'll see who they bring in. It'd be awesome if they bring in Gruden because he went to Dayton. I guess you can kind of say he's from the area. So from Ohio, or I don't know if he's from Ohio, but school there.
Yeah.
Yeah, hire Gruden. I'd be scared of the Browns if they hired Gruden even more than I am. No.
Whoa!
Play him in Cleveland.
All right, boys.
Got him feeling nicey.
Got me feeling nice.
The perfect exclamation point, a little got me feeling nicey from Mike's guy, John Gruden, who he famously wanted. Didn't he want ownership, GM,
partial ownership stake?
Yes.
Yeah, partial
ownership to become the coach of the Browns.
Had to get the Haslam's out of there, I think was the quote.
Well, I'm glad that we had our own guest today. I can't offer you partial ownership, Will, but I can say thank you for coming on and for joining us and bringing your perspective here. So I will be signing off from the Bulletin Board Sports Podcast. Will, give us the last word here.
Man, thanks for having me. It's been awesome. If you ever need me to come in and talk about the Steelers, I'd love to do it. But yeah, Turtles, man, best of luck. It's going to be a physical game, and I'm excited for it.
We'll see you next week, and hopefully, one of us will be in despair.
We'll have you on next year when it's for those Brown Steelers weeks, and we'll get that out.
That'll be awesome. Yeah, that'll be awesome. Just reach out to me whenever.
Do an hour-long breakdown of a random Brown Steelers with Mike just going in on
it. I could sit here talking about the Steelers and whoever they play for like 6 hours straight. So it's that's
how it goes on this pod if I don't keep it moving along. All right, boys, good stuff. I'm gonna end it here.